in this ability to integrate into the physical our emotional body.
And the emotional body is, of course, representative of the astral. The astral is representative of what many people refer to as the higher self. And so, yes, that coming into full embodiment in the experience here, I would fully agree, is what's in the process of
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, I think it's possible for anybody, everybody to some degree, and some to a degree that's going to lead to a paradigm link, like what we're seeing in those who are able to begin going out of body. So for you, how did these situations and circumstances begin to pattern out into your life experience? What kind of things did they get you interested in as you're becoming a teen and young adult?
So I was always very interested in teaching, but in a very lecturing way. Like, oh, are you gonna, tell me how the clock works instead of telling me what time it is? I will tell you how the clock works, right? So I would get into the mechanics. I was very interested in mythology, and that I just look at that as being, I grew up in communist Romania, so we didn't have TV, we didn't have. It was like you have books and you can play with each other, and then have creative play a lot, right?
Mm-hmm,
And then
mm-hmm.
also because my grandparents took it upon themselves to, in the summers outside of school, to take us around the country. Romania is a country that's very rich in history and historical places, and they're very beautiful. So I was always given to the mystical, 100% in the mystical. I had a mystical experience at 5 years old in a nunnery, that in this monastery that was built, from a hermit, was there in 1200 AD, and this is this very old monastery. Love it.
Please share it. What happened?
I felt a ray of light walking through the cloister, the nuns' cloisters, and I was looking at the nuns, and I felt as if I belonged there. I would not have said it that I remembered it, but I came out of that like, I'm gonna be a nun. I'm gonna live here. This is what it is for me. Like entering the house of God and feeling there's energies in places like that, especially 800 years of energy left in there. And so my grandfather wanted me to see the history and appreciate the art. He was very inclined to art and art collection.
Mm-hmm.
But I was having a mystical experience at 5 years old. I lived inside the mysticism of like mythologies and the stories that I was being told. And I could feel that. And I was like, oh, I am a nun. I need to live here. And I had this experience of sitting during prayer. The nuns would go to prayer and the tourists started looking around. And I immediately followed.
Okay, so we're connecting the experience at 5 years old to really fast forwarding to where yoga comes in, and you're even teaching yoga. So when did you, as a discipline, begin practicing yoga, and what path did you choose?
So as a discipline, it was on and off sporadic in my early 20s. I did yoga as, you can say as a discipline, but really it was the workout, right? It was studio yoga. I lived in Los Angeles at the time. Yoga is a thing, right? I'm good at yoga. I'm ready. I was a sports model. So, I was like, this is my thing. I was working out. So, it's a thing. So I can't say that I was like really dropping into it from a devotional perspective. I would read about the traditions, and I would really, really taking on right around the time when I started to have more experiences come through. But that's only because on top of the physical practice, I started to really go take on the breath practices, the pranayama, and the meditation. It's like the moment that I understood that asanam is there to prepare for meditation, then it became something else. That's when it became devotional.
When you move from practitioner or student to teacher,
Uh-huh.
you're moving from the linear practice to the exponential accelerated learning program.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first thing I realized when I first started teaching, how fast things began accelerating in my experience in terms of the depth of experience and phenomena that happens at certain depths, and inevitably the awakening, the Kundalini, the out-of-body experience, and all that. It was really, I mean, it happened really fast at that point. So my path unfolded relatively the same as yours at the same ages, very similar junctures. So can I just ask, because I'm sort of wanting to give a timeline here. You have that experience when you're 5 years old at the nunnery. It leads you into a spectrum of experience that gets you interested in teaching. You start practicing yoga. 10 years later, you're teaching yoga. And then how long is it before the OBE comes into this equation for you?
Okay, so the OBE came in the equation in the 200 hours during the 200-hour training.
So actually in the training program, so like immediately.
Yeah.
So what happened in 2009?
In 2009, due to complications, if you will, in my personal life, heartbreak, business breakup, where am I going? What's my life going? I had an experience while in a meditation in an attempt to focus my meditation on a piece of paper on the table to disappear, right? Back to the Tratak. It's here, it's not here. I'm only seeing it. Can I see beyond it? What happened, however, it flipped on me and I disappeared. The table, the paper, everything was there. And I became the not thing. Like I actually could not observe myself and then I believe you call this the wave format, right?
Point consciousness, unembodied.
Unembodied point of consciousness. And that shocked me. Once, it hit rock bottom. It was like, this is the bottom. This is, I can fall no further than this floor, right? Like it hit there. And in that moment, it was like, now what? Now what? I know that I can clean this up, but I need to find my footing, right?
So what was happening? What was happening? What led to you hitting the bottom of the barrel?
Oh, everything, literally everything. The relationship, the personal life was shit. I called it the pits of all pits. It was like, personal life was crap. Financial life was crap. There was not going in. Nothing I did worked. It's like, it literally became, I don't know why things are so hard, but this is the way they are.
Okay, but now you have some depth perception where you are. And why is it that you think this happened? Now, from your perspective now.
From my perspective now.
Yes. Why does it have to happen? Happens for a lot of us.
To take away the attachments of these constructs that we're creating an identity in a particular way.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
And I have a very strong ego and I'm a very capable person and I was going to stronghold that. If it wasn't deconstructing like that, I was going to stronghold it all the way. Yeah.
I want to hone in right here because I think I can see where it will lead. In the breaking down of the identity.
It was like, thy will be done.
And what further does this lead you into? Is this what leads, let me ask directly, is this what leads into the ceremonies?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the spiritual disciplines are there. The yoga, working with the breath, working with the mind through meditation is there, but you go an additional step toward the ceremonial plant.
Yes, because a friend of mine took me on so we went back to LA. This is funny because this is happening in Vegas, but like, let's go to LA, meet some friends. We drove out to LA. We drove out to Sycamore Canyon. And my first ceremonial plant medicine was with Huachuma, San Pedro. And I just had the most amazing heightened awareness experience.
More heightened than what you were capable of at that time through direct meditation or sitting.
Yes, because I was so wrapped up in the victimizer story, is that, and then so that this was like, it's like, like, oh, look, you actually have access to all of your body and all of the senses and all of the what's in here instead of the, the constriction point that I got myself into out of, fear and projections and it has to be a certain way. And
Yeah, I just find it interesting that it's happening at the juncture where the field is breaking down your sense of identity.
100%. Yes.
Right there in that, you're directed to step into ceremonial plant medicine,
Yeah,
which is
she came
notorious
in,
for
yes.
doing just that.
She came
So,
in from New York. She flew in. She had experience with it, and she flew into New York. She's like, "Okay, let's go hiking." And I brought you something, and let's. And I was like, I was game. I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Right? And it just was this like communion with nature and the forces of nature, really.
okay, so this is a casual experience and it's not guided, right? It's just you and your friends
Yes,
sitting.
it's guided. I would say it's guided because she knew what she was doing, right? So it wasn't like, oh, let's take some mushrooms and see what happens, right? Kind of thing. Like she was very aware. She's a great,
Right, right.
yeah.
However, you're about to step further in to ayahuasca ceremonies, yes?
Yes, later.
Which are fully guided. And so I'm just contrasting that, with what you generally get when you're going to step into the ayahuasca experience.
So the ayahuasca experience didn't come until came about a year later.
Okay, let's take the pathway there. So that first experience with your friend in the canyons is with what again? I missed
The
it.
first, it's called Huachuma or San Pedro,
Okay,
which
San
is
Pedro.
mescaline.
And the
And
next
and
step
it's
was,
very aware, right? So it doesn't have mescaline doesn't quite have the psychedelic effects of ayahuasca or psilocybin, right? So or DMT. So it's very communal. It's a heart medicine is what they call it, right? And in a hike, the Huachuma, the San Pedro specifically, is considered the more masculine aspect of it, peyote being the more feminine
and you're
aspect.
going to combine with all of these medicines, yes?
It tipped me. That medicine, yes, I will. But that medicine alone tipped me because driving back after like the medicine expansion, driving back to my place in West Hollywood from it was right there. It was like, oh, I'm so entrenched into this thing that I
Mhm.
think I am. And it's literally stopping me from actually being myself, like being stuck in traffic
Mm.
from Malibu to West Hollywood at traffic time in Brentwood. I was like, oh my God, human beings are so ridiculous. Like we created cars so we can get there faster. And it's the cars that won't let us go anywhere. Like we're stopped. And I'm like, oh my God. So I started to live inside the irony of things.
Okay, so you're beginning to experience this. Your identity's been broken down. You're experiencing a much more expanded state of being. The humor is starting to come about in it all, and you're about to take another step into another medicine. What comes next?
I hung out with aliens on Pluto.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
I was
Let's
like,
focus,
I'm
let's
out.
focus in on the ayahuasca ceremonies. How many ceremonies did you do? When was your first, and how many did you do?
My first was in 2009.
Okay.
Then I didn't go back until 2019,
Okay.
2018.
So that lasted you for 10 years.
Yes, I was good. It was phenomenal. It was so incredibly intense. It was just,
Yeah.
yeah. So in that, I met my 5-year-old self
Mhm.
that had such clarity about the fractal sound tone geometry. It There's this saying that ayahuasca is it's dark and it's sludgy and she goes in and just clears, much like the yoga practice, that she goes in and clears all your knots and wrings out and grabs everything, grabs onto everything and pulls it all out of you, and it'll clear you out to bring in the light because she's so dark that grabs everything for the light to come in. But first you shit and vomit. And I was like, yep, all of that. Like check, check, and check. It's like, what are you willing to leave it here? Oh, and by the way, if you're not willing, it is the hell and the high water. It'll do it. Right.
Yes. So tell us about the preparation. What do you do prior to the ceremonies, prior to the throwing up and the going into the room. So lead us through the process.
Each facilitator sets up their containers in whatever their traditions, but in general, there is a what's called a dieta. So it's a diet and a preparation for diet for your body to meet that. They also set you up. The diet is not just what you're eating, is everything that you're consuming and the environment that you put yourself in. I know now that a lot of that responsibility, a lot of that bringing awareness to everything that you're consuming and bringing into your environment is a form of awareness. It's a form of, free will choice, and it's a form of maturity to let you take responsibility for what your experience is when you're the one that, like if you decide to break with the diet, you're the one that's going to pay for it. But here's the other layer. You're also a participant within a circle. So now this is your contribution to the circle. And there are beings in there that are very sensitive, that will know that you brought, your preparation is less than, and someone else is it's almost as if you can observe that someone else is carrying that in that space.
So you have an individual and a collective experience within the ceremony itself?
Well, I think that denotes the level of availability for each individual, whether one can say that.
Sure.
I personally always have a collective awareness. I actually call that the portal within portal. There's the portal of the experience, which is like, this is what I've shown up for me. I've set my intentions and this and that. But then there's this like second flip where you're like, and now please observe that your DNA light structure is contributing to this container. What it was revealed in that interaction with a personified representation was something that later on I came to understand, that I was being shown the electric wars. Are you familiar with that term?
I am not. Say the term one more time and then tell us what it is.
The electric wars. So as I understand it, is some sort of memory of a different time in a different dimension of humanity. It's like fifth dimensional, maybe Atlantean or pre-Atlantean existence of humanity that, and so I want to be very clear though, that I had no concept of this.
And this is coming to you in this ceremony?
Correct.
Okay. With Horus and Lakshmi, they're bringing you the concept of an electric war.
The electric wars, I was shown the appearance of material things from sort of like a subspace, or the dark matter strata, and how things come into materialization. And like the whole teaching for me was physics and quantum physics and mechanics. And then the explanation that they actually said this, that they are not gods.
What comes next? So you do this ayahuasca ceremony, and now it's 10 years before you do another. Why do you do another?
I did another because I went into the 300-hour certification, right? So and what happened in the 300-hour certification, when I got really deep into my practices, jolted me into a space of some serious fear.
Okay. Could you identify it?
Yeah, the OBE experience was so jarring and so scary, and they were so scary. There were a lot of them, but one in specific, that I didn't know what to do with it. I could hold that space of meeting the gods and understanding this, and there's entities in sort of like the medicine space, right? But I don't know what to do with it when that is starting to happen in my 3D life.
Okay, and we will just say is what denotes the OBE. A fully conscious shift from our 3D physical Earth life space, into the expanded state. And so, yes, it's shocking. It's shocking.
But in medicine, it's like, oh, I took something and the something is working. But I'm in the medicine. So like that's not something where I took something. That now I'm just doing my breathing practices, which is Nadi Shodhana. Yes, I have a very long hold, right? We spoke about Kumbhaka, where I've arrived in a hole that is so long that I forget that I'm not breathing out anymore. And it's like, oh, is this even supposed to happen? Am I doing it wrong? Am I right? But then in those, either immediately after that in meditation or in those nights, and it started with conscious sleep, like something is rewiring in my nervous system, in my experience of how I perceive reality and what is happening to me. I'm starting to glitch out again, like I did in 2009.
Mhm.
And not one bit of that is discussed in anything yogic. In fact, it was really hard for me. I had to pull my teacher aside and even ask, have you even heard of anything like this?
Right. And so you're finding yourself on unfamiliar ground, or we could even say without ground beneath your feet. This is brilliant. This is what's necessary. However, yes, when we do it in our conscious state, our central nervous system is involved. At the base of that central nervous system is a fight flight mechanism, and it's the first thing we meet in the OBE. So it's the first thing that gets ignited, and you feel the fear. And the fear has to do with before you're controlling the experience, you are consciously taking a substance and it
Yes.
resulting in an experience. And now it's happening not by your control, not by your
Oh,
person's control. And so here's the big difference. And so, okay, go ahead, continue. This is leading you into wanting to see more about what that fear is, or what's going to happen. What's the
no, this led me to like almost 2 years of trying to avoid sleep.
Delia Blecka?
Hello, Miss Casey.
Hi. I'm so excited. No, I really am so excited about
I
this.
am too.
We
Yes,
met through a common friend, BIBA Logan,
Viva.
and yeah, I just could not be more pleased for the introduction. You, like me, came at this, in a similar way from spiritual disciplines, and I'm hoping to talk about that today. First, you have had out-of-body experiences.
I have. Yes. It's only been rather recently that I can qualify them or name them that.
Yeah, so when did your spiritual disciplines begin?
Interestingly enough, they actually began very early on at about 5 or 6 years old. I had very like extreme strabism, a lazy eye,
Hmm?
and my grandfather was he taught me yoga and yogic practices, very specifically the Tratak meditation and Tratak practice, I would say, because he felt that it would help me basically control my vision and my eyes, my focus.
And what did it do? What kind of experiences did you had?
It absolutely controls my eyes, where I have noticed I could detect what my vision was like when I was focusing or when my pupil was in the right place versus when it would just wander. And so it gave me sensory heightened awareness because as a little kid, it was, terribly embarrassing to
Mhm.
have a lazy eye.
Yeah.
And so to be able to actually control that intentionally, to bring that level of like muscle control intentionally,
So
right?
did the True Talk develop then? How most people practitioners when they begin that practice, they practice by holding the eyes deliberately open for a period of time, not more than 2 minutes until the eyes water. Was this your process?
That was a process. And then the process went from holding the fingers out as far as I can put them. And then with my head straight, like moving the pupils, like trying to find the point of vision and expanding that. So it was almost like lubricating my muscles and working with the same way that you would, flexing muscles, like all around and then up, down, and then taking them further and further and further. Right. So that was the practice. And then like focusing, bringing it in right? Because the doctors at the time wanted to put me through um, very intense practice, like have one eye cover so that it would force the other one. But in the process, there was also the sitting. There was also the introduction of the background of the tradition of yoga. I was born and raised in Romania, and my grandfather was a mathematician and an engineer. He was actually the minister of radio and telecommunications, so he was a very academic. I grew up around all academics in communist Romania. Also, as an academic, he introduced me to mythology. I read very early. And so it just kind of like broadened this. There was an expanse of what my world had available.
Hmm. So did the practice of Churtalk, did you keep the practice of Churtalk, and did you ever bring it into an internal Churtalk where you're getting visionary experience from it?
So I was getting visionary experiences before that. My big question to myself is whether the strabism was caused because I was trying to focus into like the nature of reality because I was already observing it.
Mm.
Or is the strabism and then the practice? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't remember a time before it, but I was already seeing sparkles and lights and like detecting things and auras. I have synesthesia. So then again, the question is like, do I have synesthesia because of that practice or did I have it before? I don't really know.
Now, for the listeners, go ahead and explain synesthesia.
So my synesthesia, I've studied this, I've looked into it. It was like, oh, there's so many different states. From what I understand, that synesthesia is basically the neuroreceptors in the brain the map is much more rich in connections in neuroreceptors. So there's more senses connected in the space of perceiving.
And how
So I'm very auditory sensitive. I'm very light sensitive. There seems to be more light colors, more color tones that I detect than most people.
Mhm.
And then the other one that is really interesting, this is a very specific synesthetic, like, some people have this is called time space synesthesia. My husband and I joke that I have this kind of brain that never forgets anything, but when it remembers, I don't just remember the subject. I remember everything that was happening at the moment that the knowledge of that subject came in.
Mm.
It's like I don't just recall a conversation we had. I can tell you where we were standing, what date it was, what you were wearing, what was around. It's like a whole transposition of in that time space.
So is that like a photographic memory, or is that different?
Not because so I don't remember photographically when I look at a piece of paper, but I do recall a specific subject or a specific term, and then I can tell you where in what book I saw it. So I can't
Okay.
verbatim, but I'm like, I will know. It's like a Rolodex almost. Like there's something that's available in the Rolodex.
And this is relative to the synesthesia
Mhm.
specifically.
I would not have thought that it was connected to synesthesia, but as I started to research these aspects, I realized that that is actually something that happens to me, where we joke that I remember his life better than he does. So if there's ever a moment like, what happened here? And I was like, I don't know, I don't remember. He's like, bullshit. Like, you literally remember my life better than me. You're completely lying if you're saying you don't remember.
Okay.
But
So
the amount of information and the connection to the event of when the information comes in, it's there's like a whole pocket of information. The sensory experience, everything is available in that
yeah.
space.
So it's almost like the extra synapses are giving you extra spans of data
Yeah,
that are there that potentially store that data for you, it sounds like.
correct. Mhm.
Yeah, fascinating.
And it's actually interesting because I can't turn it off. So I've had people ask me like, "Can you turn it off?" And I'm like, "My goodness, understanding I from a very early age and I came to understand paradigms, like living within a particular paradigms, because when people ask you certain things about what's it like for you, then I would have to experience to share that I don't actually understand what it's like for you.
Mm.
So when I'm being asked that, like being, first grader going to school and tell me what you see on the blackboard and what it is, and I'm like blah 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 with the green lights on that word, and then the sparkles that come from it, and then a sound tone and it has this geometry over here, and the whole class like turns around and looks at me, and I'm like, oh, you don't see that.
So you started realizing quite young that you saw differently than others.
And I had a wild imagination.
That's
So
a boon.
prior to going to school, I was just a very imaginative and very odd little girl in a sense, right?
That's a
And
boon. I did not realize until I was in my 40s that things were appearing in my field of vision that didn't appear in others.
the blue beings, the sparkly blue beings that are sitting next to my grandma, they're giggling and laughing, and I can see them and just laughing at them. The immediate interpretation from that from my grandmother is like, oh, her eyes are getting bad because of the strabism. So that's why I say I don't know if it was one or the other, like which came first, or if they just were triggered. The other thing I want to say from my own research is that 4 out of the 5 people that have synesthesia tend to be raised in bilingual and trilingual households. And that is true for me.
Interesting.
So,
Also, the thing that really jumps out to me, if I can just say, is when you have when a differential is present, when you're seeing something one way and somebody's seeing something a different way, you have access to the differentials. And the
that's right.
differentials, it's almost like when we shift out into what I call the etheric frequency bandwidth. It's a spectrum of differential between 3D physical or planetary level existence and galactic existence. And when you have access to that differential, it's a huge spectrum of information comes in, especially if, like me, you can hold yourself in waveform in that differential. That's kind of what it sounds like you're doing to me when you
Yeah.
are saying
And in language, right? So in language, like this word means this, but there's also vernacular. And there's also like, does it mean that now? Is it actually meant that in that context from the time in which it comes versus the vernacular of what's the tonality? What is the tonality with which the person is delivering it? So, I'm sensitive to tone because people, including myself, right? You may think that you are controlling the delivery and how the intention with which your communication lands. My husband calls it tone and verbiage, Delia, tone and verbiage, right? It's not just what you're saying is a tone with which you're saying, but I'm very sensitive to that too, where it appears that I can sense that they are trying to control the tonality with which it lands. And it's like, oh, I'm observing this and I'm seeing that there's something else behind it.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're opened up into the potentiality field in this aspect rather than what we would call linear time space.
And I noticed that there's also, for me, when I'm trying to control that in the space of awareness, my entire body's responding to it. Like, have you ever seen people that choke up when they're sharing something quite emotional? What's happening in that? Like, and so when I feel it, I was like, oh, there's a whole matrix of sensation that is working to deliver this. And there's so much more to communication than the language.
Than the words. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it is a full bodied experience. So I don't know if that's part of synesthesia. Frankly, I think that this is what is meant by the evolution of humans. The evolution in the physical is like this integration of the emotional body within the physical perspective. I think that this is what is actually occurring right now.
And even
That we're
more.
expanding in this ability to integrate into the physical our emotional body.
And the emotional body is, of course, representative of the astral. The astral is representative of what many people refer to as the higher self. And so, yes, that coming into full embodiment in the experience here, I would fully agree, is what's in the process of happening. Yeah, I think it's possible for anybody, everybody to some degree, and some to a degree that's going to lead to a paradigm leap, like what we're seeing in those who are able to begin going out of body. So for you, how did these situations and circumstances begin to pattern out into your life experience? What kind of things did they get you interested in as you're becoming a teen and young adult?
So I was always very interested in teaching. but in a very lecturing way. Like, oh, are you gonna, tell me how the clock works instead of telling me what time it is? I will tell you how the clock works, right? So I would get into the mechanics. I was very interested in mythology, and that I just look at that as being, I grew up in communist Romania, so we didn't have TV, we didn't have. It was like you have books and you can play with each other, and then have creative play a lot, right?
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
also because my grandparents took it upon themselves to, in the summers outside of school, to take us around the country. Romania is a country that's very rich in history and historical places, and they're very beautiful. So I was always given to the mystical, 100% in the mystical. I had a mystical experience at 5 years old in a nunnery, that in this monastery that was built, from a hermit, was there in 1200 AD, and this is this very old monastery. Love it.
Please share it. What happened?
I felt a ray of light walking through the cloister, the nuns' cloisters, and I was looking at the nuns, and I felt as if I belonged there. I would not have said it that I remembered it, but I came out of that like, I'm gonna be a nun. I'm gonna live here. This is what it is for me. Like entering the house of God and feeling there's energies in places like that,
Sure.
especially, 800 years of energy left in there. And so my grandfather wanted me to see the history and appreciate the art. He was very inclined to, art and art collection.
Mhm.
But I was having a mystical experience at 5 years old. I lived inside the mysticism of like mythologies and the stories that I was being told. And I could feel that. And I was like, oh, I am a nun. I need to live here. And I had this experience of sitting during prayer. The nuns would go to prayer and people, the tourists started looking around. And I immediately followed. I have this joke actually that connects into my yoga practice later about wanting saint's knees. Have you ever heard that?
Mm-mm. Tell me.
To have saint's knees means that like the nuns or the monastic order sits in prayer for so long that your knees are like almost like calcified in that way, and you can actually sit and it doesn't hurt, and that's called saint's knees,
Okay.
right? And I had this experience circa, I don't know, 2016 in a yoga class where the women in front of me, we would go to class every day. And the woman in front of me, she was always there. Whether I was there 3, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, but she was always there. So I knew she was going every day. And as she was doing her chaturanga, moving, flowing through her chaturanga, there's bits and pieces of her mat would like fly off. Like she had literally disintegrated her mat from that movement. It
Mm.
was like there were holes in it. And I remember looking at that and in that moment thinking in my head that, oh, she has saint's knees. It was the same feeling that I had in the monastery of like to
Mm.
be with something in such deep devotion and communion of like the repetition of that. That's what I felt at 5 years old.
Okay, so we're connecting the experience at 5 years old to really fast forwarding to where yoga comes in and you're even teaching yoga. So when did you, as a discipline, begin practicing yoga? And what path did you choose?
So as a discipline, it was on and off sporadic in my early 20s. I did yoga as, you can say as a discipline, but really it was the workout, right? It was studio yoga. I lived in Los Angeles at the time. Yoga is the thing, right? I'm good at yoga. I'm ready. I was a sports model. So, I was like, this is my thing. I was working out. So, it's a thing. So I can't say that I was like really dropping into it from a devotional perspective. I would
Okay.
read about the traditions and I would really, really taking on the right around the time when I started to have more experiences come through, but that's only because on top of the physical practice, I started to really go take on the breath practices, the pranayama, and the meditation. It's like the moment that I understood that asanam is there to prepare for meditation, then it became something else. That's when it became devotional.
Okay, what juncture are we at when this happens?
I would say that that's late 20, early 30s.
You came into the more disciplined avenue as you're coming into your 30s. And how long is it before you begin teaching?
Late 30s, I began teaching. And then I decided I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to teach at all. I was just really interested in the understanding what the practice truly was.
When you move from practitioner or student to teacher, you're moving from the linear practice to the exponential accelerated learning program. And so that was the first thing I realized when I first started teaching, how fast things began accelerating in my experience in terms of the depth of experience and phenomena that happens at certain depths, and inevitably the awakening, the Kundalini, the out-of-body experience, and all that. It was really, it happened really fast at that point. So my path unfolded relatively the same as yours at the same ages, very similar junctures. So can I just ask, because I'm sort of wanting to give a timeline here. You have that experience when you're 5 years old at the nunnery. It leads you into a spectrum of experience that gets you interested in teaching. You start practicing yoga. 10 years later, you're teaching yoga. And then how long is it before the OBE comes into this equation for you?
So the OBE came in the equation in the 200 hours, during the 200-hour training.
So actually in the training program, so like immediately.
Yes, because in the training is when I had direct teachers. And I feel, first of all, I feel really lucky and blessed with the teachers I had, but I also realize now that I wouldn't have had any other teachers because I researched. I'm a Virgo. I read so much, and there was no way I was just going to take a 200-hour. I had researched what sort of 200-hour training I wanted to take. I will even tell you that when I went to interview with one of the teachers in it, like what the conversation that we had, and to this day, we still roll around in this conversation. He's like, "Why do you want to teach?" Do you know what I said? Well, because enlightenment. And he said, "That's a terrible idea. Why would you want that?" I was like, what is this guy talking about? Absolutely am so blessed to have the teacher I have. He's like, "No, enlightenment's a terrible idea. You should just learn to, be awake in the illusion and manage this shit, right?" I'm ad-libbing, right? And I walked away with what?
But that is enlightenment.
Kind of craziness is he talking about? I was enlightenment or bust. In fact, we joke within the studio that I was samadhi or bust, samadhi or bust. There's just gunning for it, right? There's this thing that is going to happen, and it's going to, that's the thing. Why would anyone else want anything else in life? What is life for?
Yeah.
But enlightenment. And then, there were a few other instances, right, that would happen. So, because I would consider that I've had my awakening in 2009, probably at least 10 years before that. Yeah, more than that.
So what happened in 2009?
In 2009, due to complications, if you will, in my personal life, heartbreak, business breakup, where am I going? What's my life going? I had an experience while in a meditation in an attempt to focus my meditation on a piece of paper on the table to disappear, right? Back to the Tratak. It's here, it's not here. I'm only seeing it. Can I see beyond it? What happened, however, it flipped on me and I disappeared. The table, the paper, everything was there, and I became the not thing. I actually could not observe myself and then I believe you call this the wave format, right?
Point consciousness, unembodied.
Unembodied point of consciousness. And that shocked me. Projecting the attention wasn't. And it shocked me so badly that I think it almost split me. And it split me into walking my dogs, just normal day, where everything would pixelate and disappear around me.
It's just incredible. It's like hearing myself talk. Uh, how similar in it, the same junctures. It's one thing I began to see when I was put in front of the camera when I was. So in 2009, when my awakening happened and the OBEs started happening, it was very energetic. There was so much energy. And although I did not realize I needed an avenue of release for that energy, my inner being did. And I was directed to YouTube, which had literally just, months earlier, come on to the scene, right? And I was supposed to get in front of the camera and just start talking, right? And that was going to be the only reason for that, was to give me an avenue of release for this energy, so that it was being contained not just in this body, but in a larger structure, right? I forgot where I was going with that. I hate it when that happens.
Being directed in the moment where like something splits. And but in the same time, and I wonder if there was something going on in the background frequency in 2009.
Oh, that was it. Yes. There's something I began to realize once I got onto YouTube, and the ones that I draw, all of a sudden, like 5,000 people, which was a lot back then, were immediately drawn to me and my channel and the out of body experience information. And I began to see that there was a wave of us who this all happened for in 2009. And so it occurred to me, there's like these groups of waves of awakeners who rather do it together, and we tend to meet each other.
Yes, and I didn't have access to YouTube at the time, so I didn't know about it. But I was part of this group of people that were, how in the spiritual groups of Los Angeles, we were not taking. 2005 is when The Secret came out,
Oh,
right?
this is blowing my mind. Can I just ask really quick? You were
Yeah.
in LA in 2009?
Yes.
Well, so was I.
I was going to ask you about that because it's like from your previous videos that I've watched, I've like consumed everything. There are certain things that are connected to places and times. And so then my question is, and I believe I heard you once in a video say something about what this place is, meaning San Diego. And I was like, okay, maybe we can go into that. Like, are there particular hubs, or is it because there's a concentration of it at, like, as I call it, the background frequencies? Like, what's the soup that we're being stewed in, that we're partaking in, because we're affecting it, but it's also affecting us, right? There's this biofeedback. Because I do have a lot of things in common with you. I also lived in Las Vegas. And, I called it that, like, oh, Jesus had to go into the desert for, 8 years. And it's like, I was in the desert. And yes, the heat, there is something about that. Like, the desert, like, deconstructed me further. Moving out of Las Vegas, right, was an intention. It was an intentional move taken because of following the instruction. I'm not going to lie to you. These are instruction. There was an instruction set that came from OBEs and meditations. Once, it hit rock bottom. It was like, this is the bottom. This is, I can fall no further than this floor, right? Like, it hit there. And in that moment, it was like, now what? Now what? I know that I can clean this up, but I need to find my footing. Right. So
what was happening? What was happening? What led to you hitting the bottom of the barrel?
Oh, everything, literally everything. The relationship, like personal life was shit. I called it the pits of all pits. It was like, personal life was crap. Financial life was crap. There was not going in. Nothing I did worked. It's like, it literally became, I don't know why things are so hard, but this is the way they are.
Okay, but now you have some depth perception where you are. And why is it that you think this happened? Now, from your perspective now.
From my perspective now.
Yes. Why does it have to happen? Happens for a lot of us.
To take away the attachments of these constructs that were creating an identity in a particular way.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
And I have a very strong ego and I'm a very capable person. And I was going to stronghold that. If it wasn't deconstructing like that, I was going to stronghold it all the way.
I
Yeah.
want to hone in right here because I think I can see where it will lead. In the breaking down of the identity.
It was like, thy will be done.
And what further does this lead you into? Is this what leads, let me ask directly, is this what leads into the ceremonies?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ceremony and the practice. The I'm going to sit in the meditation. I'm going to bring back in my center, however long it takes to find the myself, whatever that is, right? That this can be it. And what is it? What is it? Like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? What are we doing this for? At the time, it was, it was so hard. And it was just the deconstruction and the making choices with awareness and the sitting, the finding it in stillness. A friend of mine who is a rolfer introduced me to the saying that effort and balance and effort will never be found in the same place at the same time, right? Like you can only find that in stillness. And so it was sit. It was like, just sit. And what I mean by sit is sit in meditation, like sit with yourself. Don't distract. Don't try to find a thing.
So the spiritual disciplines are there. The yoga, working with the breath, working with the mind through meditation is there, but you go an additional step toward the ceremonial plant.
Yes, because a friend of mine took me on so we went back to LA. This is funny because this is happening in Vegas, but like, let's go to LA, meet some friends. We drove out to LA. We drove out to Sycamore Canyon. And my first ceremonial plant medicine was with Wachuma or San Pedro. And I just had the most amazing heightened awareness experience.
More heightened than what you were capable of at that time through direct meditation or sitting.
Yes, because I was so wrapped up in the victimizer story, is that, and then so that this was like, it's like, like, oh, look, you actually have access to all of your body and all of the senses and all of the what's in here instead of the constriction point that I got myself into out of, fear and projections, and it has to be a certain way. And
yeah, I just find it interesting that it's happening at the juncture where the field is breaking down your sense of identity.
100%.
Right there in that, you're directed to step into ceremonial plant medicine.
Yeah,
which is notorious for doing just that.
She came in from New York. She flew in. She had experience with it, and she flew into New York. She's like, "Okay, let's go hiking." And I brought you something, and I was like, I was game. I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Right? And it just was this like communion with nature and the forces of nature, really.
Okay, so this is a casual experience, and it's not guided, right? It's just you and your friends sitting.
Yes, it's guided. I would say it's guided because she knew what she was doing, right? So it wasn't like, oh, let's take some mushrooms and see what happens, right? Kind of thing. Like she was very aware. She was a great.
Right. However, you're about to step further in to ayahuasca ceremonies, yes?
Yes, later.
Which are fully guided. And so I'm just contrasting that, with what you generally get when you're going to step into the ayahuasca experience.
So the ayahuasca experience didn't come until came about a year later.
Okay, let's take the pathway there. So that first experience with your friend in the canyons is with what again? I missed it.
The first, it's called Wachuma or San Pedro.
Okay, San Pedro. And the next step
and it's very aware, right? So it doesn't have mescaline doesn't quite have the psychedelic effects of ayahuasca or psilocybin, right? So or DMT. So it's very communal. It's a heart medicine is what they call it, right? And in a hike, the Wachuma, the San Pedro specifically, is considered the more masculine aspect of it. Peyote being the more feminine
And
aspect.
you're going to combine with all of these medicines, yes?
It tipped me. That medicine, yes, I will. But that medicine alone tipped me because driving back after like the medicine expansion, driving back to my, my place in West Hollywood from, it was right there. It was like, oh, I'm so entrenched into this thing that I think I am. And it's literally stopping me from actually being myself. Like being stuck in traffic
Mm.
from Malibu to West Hollywood at traffic time in Brentwood. I was like, oh my God, human beings are so ridiculous. Like we created cars so we can get there faster. And it's the cars that won't let us go anywhere. Like we're stopped, and I'm like, oh my God. So I started to live inside the irony of things.
And when you get it, it's funny, right?
It's so ridiculous.
How important is the laughter? How important is the humor, the giggling? As you said, what do two enlightened people have to say to each other? Nothing, just the giggles.
They'll nod and giggle to each other, right? Because you get it. It's like this is the cause of like there is nothing, there's no language, nothing. The giggling and the laughter is the frequency of presence,
Thank you.
of pure presence and integration.
Thank you. Okay.
And it's visceral, it's full bodied, it says everything.
It's also very vibrational. It's also very waveformish. Yeah, it's very hard to hold yourself tight.
The vibration of your,
whoops, I'm sorry.
I know, isn't it beautiful? It's literally like that, right? It's like, oh, right? Like here it is. It communicates a lot. It's your nervous system actually like moving through and flushing out the tension and all of the constructs that it had, right? It's like they're not there. And now you have full access.
Okay, so you're beginning to experience this. Your identity's been broken down. You're experiencing a much more expanded state of being. The humor is starting to come about in it all, and you're about to take another step into another medicine. What comes next?
The next one, what I want to say, because I feel like this is important. I also read a book. So the same friend gave me a book, which was really monumental because from the get-go, I started to realize that there's a performance of spirituality and then there's like the actual spirituality, right? So I saw a lot of performative spirituality almost immediately. And I see when I dip into it myself. And then when I pull out of it, and it's like, oh no, this is the thing. Am I making sense with that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like even in the medicine, there's this and there's that, and there's like, no, but you're really in it, right? Do you get it?
Mm-hmm.
And so the book, and can I share what the book is?
Sure.
And please pardon my language, but I'm going to say, but that book like really fucked my shit up because it was exactly what I needed at that time. It was Jed McKenna's Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing.
Say the author again.
Jed McKenna, Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing.
Jen McKenna. Okay. Any relationship to Terrence or his brother? No. Okay.
Technically doesn't exist. I'm just going to save you and then the group of people that I was around, everybody picked up that book and that was wild to watch how everyone had their own responses to the book. And, the book, I don't want to tell people what the book is about because I'm actually really attached to people like reading the book because I want to see their reaction.
Well, now I want to read it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. It's a trilogy, but the first book was enough. I sat down, I read it. I think I was done with it in 3 days. In fact, the first day that I picked it up at around this time of day, and I read it well into the night where all I did is like reach out to the light and turn on the light as it got dark around me because I couldn't put it down. And so that book is, and I've had a really hard time rereading it. I've tried to, and I cannot reread it since. Like it did the work, it came in, it did the thing, and the book in essence is about that, like laugh at your own ridiculousness about the spiritual ego, right? And then are you looking for a mystical experience or are you looking for enlightenment, right? Like he positions these things, the Advaita Vedanta or the non-dual abiding in such a specific way. And I was in that, right? So I had this momentary event where I felt like I touched that acidic frequency of it.
Through reading the book?
From reading the book. Right. And how I integrated it. And I think the medicines did that. Right. So I learning later that what the medicines were allowing. Right. So the next introduction being ayahuasca and having that was wild because then it took me into like a different space, right? So once these experiences started to open, there was a lot more in him. I could sit in meditation or lay down.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard you talk about that too, like the difference between sitting upright, right, spine straight meditation versus the laying down. And I was always drawn to the laying down. I was like, I don't even understand how these people can stand up. Like all I'm feeling is like all these muscles and da, da, da. And I'm like, this is why the yogis were doing the practice. Wring out all the knots in the nadis and in your structure so that the consciousness of the divine self, right, can come and rest, like give it a into the form. I was always sitting with that. I was like, well, how's that going to happen when I'm over here, like my toe hurts and my da 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 da. And I'm like, my goodness fucking gracious. It is very busy in my head. I'm a very busy girl, right?
We can't tell that in the slightest, Delia.
I have that
You
even,
have a beautiful mind.
but it's even in medicine. Even hearing people about what is supposed to happen in the context of medicine. And I was like, what? I hung out with aliens on Pluto.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
I was like, I'm
Let's
out.
focus in on the ayahuasca ceremonies. How many ceremonies did you do? When was your first, and how many did you do?
My first was in 2009.
Okay.
Then I didn't go back until 2019,
Okay.
2018.
So that lasted you for 10 years.
Yes, I was good. It was phenomenal. It was so incredibly intense. It was just,
Yeah.
yeah. So in that, I met my 5-year-old self that had such clarity about the fractal sound tone geometry. It There's this saying that ayahuasca is it's dark and it's sludgy and it's, she goes in and just clears, much like, the yoga practice, that she goes in and clears all your knots and wrings out and grabs everything, grabs onto everything and pulls it all out of you, and it'll clear you out to bring in the light because she's so dark that grabs everything for the light to come in. But first you shit and vomit. And I was like, yep, all of that. Like check, check, and check. It's like, what are you willing to leave it here? Oh, and by the way, if you're not willing, it is the hell and the high water. It'll do it. Right.
Yes. So tell us about the preparation. What do you do prior to the ceremonies, prior to the throwing up and the, going into the room? So lead us through the process.
Each facilitator sets up their containers in whatever their traditions, but in general, there is what's called a dieta. So it's a diet and a preparation for diet for your body to meet that. They also set you up. The diet is not just what you're eating, is everything that you're consuming and the environment that you put yourself in. I know now that a lot of that responsibility, a lot of that bringing awareness to everything that you're consuming and bringing into your environment is a form of awareness. It's a form of, free will choice, and it's a form of maturity to let you take responsibility for what your experience is when you're the one that, like if you decide to break with the diet, you're the one that's going to pay for it. But here's the other layer. You're also a participant within a circle. So now this is your contribution to the circle. And there are beings in there that are very sensitive, that will know that you brought, your preparation is less than, and someone else is it's almost as if you can observe that someone else is carrying that in that space.
So you have an individual and a collective experience within the ceremony itself?
Well, I think that denotes the level of availability for each individual, whether one can say that.
Sure.
I personally always have a collective awareness. I actually call that the portal within portal. There's the portal of the experience, which is like, this is what I've shown up for me. I've set my intentions and this and that. But then there's this like second flip where you're like, and now please observe that your DNA light structure is contributing to this container. And
I'm with
I
you.
can tell you that I've observed individuals who are not aware of that second layer actually do phenomenal, tremendous work without being aware they're doing it. In
Sure. Sure. Most of us do it entirely veiled, but
Ooh,
I want to go back into where you were speaking about the diet, mind, energy, body.
it's
So what
very
was your
very
process?
yogic, right? It's like preparation. What do you get what you put in,
What
right?
did you focus on eating, and how many times a day did you eat?
Most of them will require a vegan or vegetarian diet. Most of them will require a vegan diet. So the diets can get, depending on the facilitator, depending on your level of what you're available to do for
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
But most of them will say vegan diets. What I found later on through more, is that the actual indigenous traditions, they actually require some protein, like poultry or fish, pre-medicine, compared to the more Americanized, like restructuring, where they want everything vegan.
Yeah. What did
So
you
that
do? What did you do?
I did the vegan. I will go full on doing the vegan and then
And did you
reduce.
do mono foods, or was there anything specifically
I
in that
don't
you
know what you
did
mean
for
by
you?
monofoods.
Oh, where you eat just one food. So
Nope.
you sit down to your first meal and it's a big plate of mangoes.
Mm-mm.
That's a
Nope.
mono meal. Okay,
No,
so
it's just overall, sometimes more of an Ayurvedic perspective, as in like don't eat anything that's kapha, heavy, no oils, no spices, no, that sort of more of a detox diet, if you will,
thank you,
for
thank you.
preparation.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the general ones.
And you do this for what kind of a period of time before you get
They're
to?
from a week to a month. For ayahuasca, the recommendation is at least a month out. If you're really like, I would say if someone's really into it and take it serious, you can do it 2 months out. I know people who are 2 weeks out.
Preparation is the key, always.
But 2 weeks out for someone that in general has brings a lot of awareness to their diet, right? And to their consumption. Yeah, in 2 weeks you can pull it together because you're just not going to eat crap anyway, right?
Hmm.
I joke that my blood type is Nutella, so I definitely need the month out, So it's like Nutella's my undoing. Like, sorry.
I don't know how people eat that.
I love it. So I put it on a
Okay.
tortilla and eat it like a little burrito. So
Yeah, oh, goodness. Okay, so you do the dietary preparations, and of
I
course,
get preparation.
have your spiritual disciplines in place, and you get to the ceremony. Now, how many days is the program? Is it a week-long program? Is it just a few days? Is it a single day?
The one that I sat in was one day. You had the option of 2 days. I
Mm.
did one day.
Okay, and you get there, and what?
You meet everyone that you're going to sit in circle with.
Okay, and was your group large or
It
small?
was my first time meeting my that facilitator.
Hmm.
So I knew of them through friends. Is it a good time to tell you that the majority of my ayahuasca ceremony, the facilitator was a woman who was also the Spanish teacher at the high school that I went to. So,
Oh,
like,
wow.
wait a minute.
Get out.
Wait a minute. Yeah. So,
So interesting. Okay.
right. Like, this is like loop, like, wait a minute. Right. I'm like, you look familiar and you sound familiar. And I had spoken to her on the phone, but I had never met her directly. Right.
So you didn't
So,
realize until you got there.
that I was like, I know her.
Phenomenal.
She was the teacher in my high school. So I was never in her class, but yeah, I knew her.
Okay. And so is this group that you're meeting with, is this a large group or a small group?
Uh,
Less than a dozen people, more than 20?
Less than a dozen,
Less than a dozen.
right at
Okay,
a dozen.
good.
Yeah,
Perfect.
less than a
Perfect.
dozen. So it was a very small group. I've always sat in small groups. I'm actually scheduled to sit at the end of October, and that's the biggest group I'm going to sit with, which is 16 people.
Okay. I want to get into why you continue them, but before we get to that, tell us what happened in the first ceremony.
Really interesting things happened. So, first of all, I met okay, I felt that I met Horus and Lakshmi together in the ceremony.
Taurus. Okay.
Horus and Lakshmi together. So that was part of the what really shocked me, that they were together.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in the mind space, I asked, like, what's happening right now? Like, clearly you two are confused. Like, what is happening? And
What does Horus symbolize to you, and what does Lakshmi symbolize
I've
to
been
you?
interacting with Horus since I was a little kid.
Okay.
The
And he symbolizes what?
protector
Okay.
to me, protector, and protector as a child. And in fact, I started re-interacting with Horus when my daughter was born. So I was 20 years old, and when my daughter was born, that whole memory of like Horus and, you know, the Egyptian pantheon and what that meant came back.
Okay.
But why Horus and Lakshmi were together, I don't understand. And I still, to this day, I understand now. I never understood why Lakshmi,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not, if I was to pick an Ishvara Pranidhana, right? Like a so in yoga, the Ishvara Pranidhana is like the how do I say this? The Godhead representation, right? Through the love of one, the many, right? The whole of God, but you pick one representation that you feel attracted to, right? Lakshmi wouldn't be mine.
Okay, but Lakshmi is more normally the consort of who?
I
Shiva, Vishnu, or
I think I want to say is Vishnu.
okay. All right. So this is why you're
Like,
not
wrong.
understanding, and just
Yes.
for the listeners, this is why you're not understanding why she's coming through with Horus.
Right, like these are two different traditions, right? So one is Egyptian, the other one is Hindu. Like, how would they be together? And in fact, the information that came through is was so clear that like we have always been together. We come from the same layer, if you
Mm.
will, right? From the
Yeah,
same
the
space.
same realm.
And
Uh-huh.
right. And then we've been interpreted by, so this is where I started to understand that there's context, right? Like, oh, the teachings and the traditions and the scriptures have context in who downloaded them, who brought them forward, and whereabouts they live, and what was their background and what they were living in. But that was the information that's come to. So I had this mystical experience within the medicines of meeting Horus and Lakshmi together, and Lakshmi being a warrior. Like it was some sort of a warrior Lakshmi. And I was like, well, isn't that Durga? Like, because I'm more of a Durga, like Durga, you know, I mean, who doesn't love Durga? But apparently, and I couldn't understand that. And so then I was being taught, right? Like the representation of Lakshmi is like she's another form of Durga, and kind of like breaking down some things for me.
Hmm.
But I want to tell you this because I feel like this is important. What it was revealed in that interaction with a personified representation was something that later on I came to understand, that I was being shown the electric wars. Are you familiar with that term?
I am not. Say the term one more time and then tell us what it is.
The electric wars. So as I understand it, is some sort of memory of a different time in a different dimension of humanity. It's like
Okay.
fifth dimensional, maybe Atlantean or pre-Atlantean existence of humanity, that and so I want to be very clear though that I had no concept of this.
And this is coming to you in this ceremony.
Correct.
Okay. With Horus and Lakshmi, they're bringing you the concept of an electric war.
The electric wars, I was shown the appearance of material things from sort of like a substrate, subspace, or the dark matter strata, and how things come into materialization. And like the whole teaching for me was physics and quantum physics and mechanics. And then the explanation that they are not, they actually said this, that they are not gods, that they are beings that have reached a high level of evolution, and that they are teaching us this, and that we actually need to stop looking at them as gods, and that we need to pay attention to what they're saying because they're showing us the nature of things, the
Okay.
world. world of forces.
So why are you being shown this concept of the electric wars? What do you have an understanding in this of what it is, how it unfolded, what the dichotomy involved
I
is?
had an un- I had an understanding of what was involved. It was a sound and vibrational clash of disharmony between different races of beings that are galactic.
And relative to what? Relative to how 3D Earth will function?
How
Yes.
3D Earth will function, the information that we have, what is actual science, what is the true nature of reality, how we take the scriptures and interpret the scriptures, and all, how my practice is not about that. And it, like, Lakshmi actually even showed me how I was actually continuing to call her in because the mantra that was given to me by a teacher had a Lakshmi seed syllable in it. And then so I also learned how the seed mantras seed a consciousness, and then each consciousness is a consciousness pocket with a whole bunch of information in it.
Mhm.
It's like that sound tone geometry, it's what creates and the what's being created. It was intense, and it felt, there was a lot of sadness, there was a lot of the feeling in the observation of this event was that we failed, but we didn't fail. Like, we weren't able to take it through. And so you need to pay attention, because this is what's going to be the what takes it through. Like, can you operate within your quantum consciousness because of this? It was a,
What's this? Can you behave in your quantum consciousness because of what? The electric wars? The what do you mean by this?
this is what failed it. This is
What
what
failed it?
caused it.
What caused it?
What caused it is a mismatch in the harmonic levels, and the how we brought like our own abilities into it, or how we didn't bring the abilities into it. That's how I understood it. The sense was like, the feeling was a very heavy feeling of like, oh God, how did it go like this? Oh no, right? And it's like, okay.
I'm starting to come off of the balance point here. So let's go back into the ayahuasca experience. Horace and Lakshmi are coming through. They're bringing through this concept of the electric wars. The electric wars, and I'm going to say this in my own terminology, and you correct me if I'm incorrect, has to do with differentiating views of what will be involved, what building blocks will be involved, what will be present in our veiling situation here in 3D Earth space.
Something like that. Yes.
Okay.
I would agree. Yes.
Okay. Now, because you have so much more experience, I don't want to get locked in on this one. Was there more that came through that
It
particular?
was more that came through. It was really fun, actually. So
Okay.
what came through is, I had started to learn about this system called human. I knew about human design, but Jinkies. And again, I had this Richard Rudd, who is the teacher of Jinkies, or like the original. He called himself the original student, so I will address him as such. Right, the person that synthesized Jinkies from human design, right? He talks about having had an experience with it, like 3 days sitting inside the revelation of what the Jinkies are, and how he downloaded that and brought out the Jinkies, like his own synthesis, his own gnosis. And in this medicine ceremony for me, I somehow started to look at my own map. I had a visual of my own map, and I was inside a three-dimensional map of like, this is me, this is what this is, this sphere is this idea, this is the theme in here, this is how it expresses. And and,
Yeah.
and just, for everyone to know, from then on, I'm a Jinky guide, and I love the system because I felt like I met it from the inside. I was like, Richard Rudd is right. I saw it. I experienced it full visceral. What I want to say about the ayahuasca experiences, and any plant medicine experience, as someone who is labeled, and I agree with the label that I'm what someone would call clairvoyant, right? Is that I experience my downloads, or my uploads rather, because there's not just a download. It's like uploading is being able to run the program, right? Is that I experience them through visuals. And so for me, the visualization, the being inside a 3D structure and being able to like move it around is just part of like my heightened synesthesia, right? Of like, I
Fascinating.
need to understand how something works and what are the mechanics of it and what are the forces that act upon it, right?
Wonderful. So the ceremony brought you, exiting the ceremony, you're now having the impetus and apparent skill to become a facilitator for the Gene Keys,
For the gene keys. Yeah, yeah. I thought you were going to
which
say for medicine. I was like, oh my God, no. Yes.
which you also start doing. Okay, so the ceremony brought you to this. So wonderful.
Brought me to that, and it brought me to an extra layer where also that I wanted to take the yoga stuff, right? Like my yoga learning and teaching in a like further. And so then I was looking for a 300-hour certification. I was like, I wanted to add on to like what would a more master teacher do and what would they know? Like why are they master teachers and how to learn this?
Okay, all right.
The restroom, please. I'm so
Oh, yes, of
sorry.
course. Go ahead.
It also introduced me to a group of people. The sitting in ceremonies introduced me to a group of people that felt at the time that were much more like-minded, people that I could explore concepts, practices, interests.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you still stay in touch with the people that you had your first ceremony with. Yeah, wonderful. Or
yes.
brought you to some community. Yeah, so far it's bringing you some, wonderful things to have happen in the middle of an awakening process. You also briefly, I don't know if you want to go into this, read my gene keys. Do you want to say what you found there? I
Um,
don't understand the language, and so
Well, I was looking for something in particular and thank you, by the way, so much for indulging me because I observe patterns, I have my own pattern recognition way of moving through things. And so from the beginning, from the first video that I saw of you, I'm like, I'm very, very interested in this person. Like, who is this being? I literally was like, who is this person? I need to, because of the language syntax,
Mm,
how you speak and the terminology and your cadence, like everything was there.
mm.
It just makes me very interesting. So after studying and looking at it, then I could project or intuit, right? Is it intuition? I know the system, so I can pick certain patterns. Within that system, I was guessing or intuiting that you must be a projector or probably a reflector, which are very rare. So, from you providing the information, you are a projector. I find that a lot of people that are quite visible on YouTube and have this more unique stream tend to be projectors.
And there's different kinds of projectors.
Yeah, there are different kinds of projectors, and you're a very rare kind of projector. You're a mental projector with soundboarding cognition.
Which makes so much sense to me. I mean, it's
But
so
I've
funny.
never seen that. I've been studying the system for so long and I have never heard of a soundboarding cognition. Never once. It is specific to the mental projectors.
Mhm.
I was like, what? Could I have learned something new about the system? And yes, I did. Right? I was like, oh, thank you. Soundboarding is exactly what you are doing. I need to hear how the sound by it being fed back to me. Like, tell it back to me. Like, what are you hearing in it? How is this landing?
Mhm.
Right? And I was like, how amazing that I'm actually watching an individual be completely in their dharma and operating out of their truest self. Most of us work with conditioning. Human design and gene keys are called the great experiments of deconditioning.
Mm.
And I have to say that you do not, which is why we'll catch the attention of people that like, what is happening here? It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. One of these things is not like the other.
Well, I've
Right.
always emphasized the mental field. I just did not know why. I clearly had a preference for it. The emotional body, not so much. In fact, the differential between the emotional body and my mental body is enormous. They're no way near balanced. I'm going to,
Not, yeah, it's not, so I happen to be a manifesting generator that's an emotional authority.
Mhm.
And I find that I have a lot of hard time with that. I have a hard time with that. Like, actually stepping into my emotional authority, because emotional authorities have a wave, right? It's like, don't, take a breath. Like, learn to take a breath because it feels great when you're at the top of the wave, but like, are you going to feel the same way when you're at the bottom? Like, you actually need to feel the full curvature of the wave before it's a full yes, right? That's
What comes next? So you do this ayahuasca ceremony, and now it's 10 years before you do another. Why do you do another?
I did another because I went into the 300-hour certification, right? And what happened in the 300-hour certification, when I got really deep into my practices, jolted me into a space of some serious fear.
Okay.
Um,
Could you
the
identify it?
Yeah, the OBE experience was so jarring and so scary, and they were so scary. There were a lot of them, but one in specific that I didn't know what to do with it. I could hold that space of meeting the gods and understanding this, and there's entities in sort of like the medicine space, right? But I don't know what to do with it when that is starting to happen in my 3D life.
Okay. And we will just say is what denotes the OBE. A
Yeah.
fully conscious shift from our 3D physical earth life space, into the expanded state. And so, yes, it's shocking. It's
But
shocking.
in medicine, it's like, oh, I took something and the something is working. But I'm in the medicine. So, like, that's not something where I took something. That now I'm just doing my breathing practices, which is Nadi Shodhana. Yes, I have a very long hold, right? We spoke about Kumbhaka, where I've arrived in a hole that is so long that I forget that I'm not breathing out anymore. And it's like, oh, is this even supposed to happen? Am I doing it wrong? Am I right? But then in those, either immediately after that in meditation or in those nights, and it started with conscious sleep, like something is rewiring in my nervous system, in my experience of how I perceive reality and what is happening to me. I'm starting to glitch out again, like I did in 2009.
Mhm.
And not one bit of that is discussed in anything yogic. In fact, it was really hard for me. I had to pull my teacher aside and even ask, have you even heard of anything like this?
Right. And so you're finding yourself on unfamiliar ground, or we could even say without ground beneath your feet. This is brilliant. This is what's necessary. However, yes, when we do it in our conscious state, our central nervous system is involved. At the base of that central nervous system is a fight flight mechanism, and it's the first thing we meet in the OBE. So it's the first thing that gets ignited, and you feel the fear. And the fear has to do with before you're controlling the experience, you are consciously taking a substance and it
Yes.
resulting in an experience. And now it's happening not by your control, not by your
Oh,
person's control. And so here's the big difference. And so, okay, go ahead, continue. This is leading you into wanting to see more about what that fear is, or what's going to happen. What's the,
no, this led me to like almost 2 years of trying to avoid sleep.
oh dear. Okay.
So it was about a year and a half of absolutely terrifying, and also deteriorated my own stability in my own body, because then I'm not sleeping and I'm not saying anything about it, and I am saying, but I don't have that many people to say it to. So what my OB experiences, I started to have experiences I felt like I called them astral projections at the time, because lucid dreaming has always been the case, and conscious sleep. And I felt like they were different. Conscious sleep, as in when I lay down to fall asleep, I would fall asleep consciously and immediate, like literally there was boom, boom. Like it wasn't even a second split in between. My eyes are closed. I'm in my body. I'm on my bed. And here's how I fall asleep. And I wake up within myself. And now I am in the room. I could observe, let's say, the room. I wasn't observing it like this in the 3D. The way that I would see through either I could see through my own eyelids, like literally I came awake. Like the minute I fell asleep, I came awake. Like it was 1, 2, like that. Sometimes only one eyeball, which, that was funny. I was like, come on, like, wait, come on, come on. I was like, and the other one is like, nope. Like some nights one eyeball does not see. It's only one, right? Or both. See through my eyelids into the room, and I could detect the furniture in the space, like you see in movie of the heat detection
Yes.
binoculars,
Mm-hmm.
like Predator style, which was so, like.
Mm-hmm.
But when I come
Again,
out into lucid dreaming, there is a presence, okay. I cannot tell you if it's nefarious. I can tell you that it felt nefarious by the simple fact that if I go out in my yard in the middle of the night and there is a person in my yard, I'm automatically going to wonder why you're there because I don't expect them there. So
right. You're perceiving it as your space.
my face, and then
So,
something is in it, and something is always in it. Something is always like right here, like like after me. It feels like a hounding. I cannot come out into that lucid space without the thing being right there. And when I look at the thing, if I had a body, my body would like my blood would run cold. Like talking to you about it right now, remembering it's making, I have weakness in my hip bones and my knees, like, the kind of thing that would just make you crumble and fall down from fear. Like I cannot hold my body upright from fear.
and that has to happen. I handled it in a very similar way. I would be, my feet would be magnetically sealed to the floor. I would find it really hard to pick up one foot and get away. So, like, I felt that too. It was there. And we either have to crumble or be sealed where we are, or we'll never meet it. So, anyway, just wanted to say
But
that.
I'm also hearing that the realization like these things are overlapping at the same time that I'm having this experience of being hounded. When I do get a little bit of sleep, I'm hearing it's like the angel singing, like is singing to me the whole time that I'm asleep. It's the singing. And what's singing is the Hare Om Tat Sat. Hare
Okay.
Om Tat Sat. And so I remember going to my teacher and saying, hey, is there such a thing as having your own mantra that is not given to you by a teacher?
Mhm.
I thought that our mantra is supposed to be given to us by a guru. And I tell her, I was like, this is what's happening. And she's like, well, you do have some very interesting experiences. And I would say that's your mantra.
Well, yeah, the ones that come to us from the withinness of ourselves are always the key core ones to
Yeah.
be paying attention to. And so this mantra comes into your consciousness and it allows you to move through that phase where you're feeling that into another spectrum of the experience.
Be able to observe this being that I just cannot get away from. And so, and it's happening. Oof. It's a very big being. It's a very tall, big being. It's,
Mm,
it is. I've heard people talk about reptilians after the fact, that I maybe probably heard it before, but just clicked right over it,
mhm.
But most of the time when I see a representation of reptilian beings, it doesn't actually look anything like what I observed. What I observed was so much bigger and so different
Give us the details. Color, scales, male,
that
female.
it looked translucent. Like I almost couldn't tell. It looked very buff. It was very big. It was big. It was booming. Um, Damn, it was fast. I don't know how else to say it. Like it was just, you know, and I was constantly trying to get away from it. And I
Mhm.
spent about a year and a half. I can't detect if sometimes I felt that it was standing over me and I couldn't tell it's because it was so much bigger or because I was cowering. Like I couldn't look. I was like, and just wanting to wake up and waking up and turning all the lights on in the house. I did have an experience once when something appeared in the bedroom, but that was not the same kind of being. And
Mhm.
in fact, I ran out of the bedroom. It was also a very tall being, and it also had this opalescent look, but it looked more like it looked humanoid tall, and it had wings. It was not an angelic being, or at least I didn't experience it as an angel with the way that people describe that. It looked more like it had these see-through wings like the way that dragonflies do.
Mhm.
And it looked like I was like, is that a wing? Is it feathers? And it's like, no, it's sparklies. This. I ran out of the room.
So more elemental, maybe?
Yeah, but it was like 11 feet tall. Like, and there was no ceiling. I was like, I'm in my room, but I'm not in my room because there's no ceiling again with the pixelation of the what's around. And
Mhm.
I remember as soon as I ran out of the room and closed the door behind me, that in my head, I was like, oh my God, this thing appeared in my bedroom. Why would I think the door is going to stop it? And I was like, right? Like, it's just the reaction of the human. And then it appeared like, did you ever watch the movie Cocoon? Because I did, and I
Oh,
loved it.
yeah, sure.
When I was a kid, I was like, oh my
I
God,
I
right?
have to reposition myself, sorry.
Then the being like from Cocoon, appeared, and I directly communicated with it that what just happened, and it communicated telepathically that like you loved Cocoon. We're not here to we not want we're not here to scare you. And I was like, I'm scared.
Mm. Well, your central nervous system and your fight flight mechanism is being activated. It has to happen. It has to happen. It has to be what I call dismantled, or restructured or
Yeah.
advanced, or however you want to say that. The fight flight mechanism that we have here, that we wear in our 3D Earth space, is meant for maximal survival here. But when we shift out, it gets in the way. Uh, it has to be reworked. It's not for maximal survival in these wider territories. It'll try to protect us from something we don't need protection from, right? And so do we go through a whole slew of experiences
Yeah, but these
just
are two very different beings, right? One is sort of respectful of me. The other one is like hounding. Like hounding is the word to use because that's how I felt. I felt like it was waiting for me to fall asleep so that it can be right there. And at the time, I was introduced to because I was having some issues. I was blow drying my hair in the mirror and I portaled out and through the mirror. I saw another being instead of me, like not me, but another being. It had my eyes, and I just immediately like transported like consciousness, full visceral experience into another planet. I am not kidding you. It was another planet. There were blue crystal mountains. There was a big flying serpent coming over the person that I was in that space, I looked at myself and I was like, oh my God, like I was some sort of I had these pelts on. I was running toward this flying dragon. Not, it was not a dragon. It's a flying serpent. It like called out and I ran to it. And as I was running, as it came closer and I'm observing what this being that is now me doing. I hopped on it and I started surfing on
I
it.
knew you were a dragon rider. Yeah, no,
But
we know each other. It's like we know each other.
her
So,
name is Glider. Her
oh
name is,
yeah, I'm
and
a
I like,
dragon
it's
rider too.
me, right? It's like, oh, it's me. But it was so beautiful because I was like, why would I be running to? And the thing called me, right? And I was like, what? And I have this experiences again from that thing that come in when I start to remember that I have I have an experience with Wajet as the Egyptian goddess that is a proto goddess, right? She is like a mother serpent, flying serpent before the gods that we know in the pantheon. Like I just feel her, right? Like I don't know how to explain that. And there's mythology and things that I can tell you how I connect to that. I had in high school, I had a friend that was Egyptian and she brought me the Eye of Horus as a gift when she went to visit family. And I wore that for years and it just felt correct, right? Horus is a protector. And so when all these memories start to come back, but I had this experience in the mirror sitting right here in this bedroom. Like this is my bedroom, by the way. So like this experience in the mirror and when it would happen, then I would go and do it again. And one night, my husband, I tried to tell him about it. I said, oh, there's this thing that happened and it looks like me, but she's got like wilder hair and she's got these pelts. And my husband, you know what he said to me? He said, yeah, I know, I saw you. And I was like, What do you mean you saw me? He goes, D, you did it one time. He called it phased it. He goes, you phased in and out
So
and
he
you
can
were
see.
that person. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I think I'm about to, like, my husband's extremely pragmatic. He's a 3D masculine, like holds down the fort, like, thank you, my man. Thank you. Right. And good God. But then he says this, and I was like, how does that win? And he's like, oh, I don't know, like a couple years ago.
Yeah, so your energy field is opening out into his, and he's beginning to have some level of spectral vision.
And do you know what he said to me? He said,
Fascinating.
I knew it was you because you had the same eyes.
Oh,
And I was like, but that's what I see in the mirror I portal through my eyes and I have the same eyes and as this other being.
yeah.
And he said, no, no, I knew it was you. He goes, yeah, the first time you did it was kind of scary. He's like, but I've gotten used to it. He's like, you've done it a few times. Like, what? So interestingly, and I've had people ask me, like, what do you know of shapeshifters? And I'm sitting there going, I might be one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you mean by shapeshifter? I was like,
I'm sorry,
people
that's
that I
funny. Yeah.
did in the living room, and my husband's like, oh, there you go again, like in and out.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask
Shape-shifting
you,
ability often comes with the dragons, with the magical realm,
he's
with
very,
a lot of the reptilian species. Mm.
he's very connected. My husband is very connected. First of all, he would have to be, we wouldn't be married. He wouldn't be,
Exactly. Yeah.
but
100%.
he's more like you, he calls it the kite holder. He's like, you're the kite and you're out there doing the experiences. And I'm just making sure that you're tethered here. Like, I'm making sure that you don't fly away. He's like, so, but all these things are happening at the same time. And so then I'm introduced through another teacher because of this lack of sleep, and there is some deterioration, right? So the practices are keeping me up, but I'm also deteriorating, right? Because I'm not sleeping 2 hours a night of sleeping and doing everything. And that's probably right around the time when I did find YouTube, because when you're staying up all night for a long time, reading won't keep you awake. YouTube will keep you awake. So then YouTube
So at
has a
the
lot
same
of
time you're going into shock, your central nervous system is going into shock. So was mine.
Mhm.
Now, the way I handled it, because I'm monastic in this life, no spouse, no other, I did it with YouTube. So
Mhm.
I would come on and talk, but I had to do that while my central nervous system was still in shock. Yeah, and like my whole body shook. It took me about 2 years to get through that. And
Well, yeah, and I'll say that that's
that's the
part of
thing.
why I went back to the medicine. So why I reconsidered the medicine is because, there's some science of what the medicine is doing. Like, aside from the spiritual aspects, right? That there is some science that it helps to rewire, and there's neurogenesis and rewiring the nervous system in that way. And so being able to meet it, I could look at both of them. I could say out loud to, like, my husband and my friends that are not, not my woo friends, my muggle friends. And his partners and things like that, to say that, to, like, well, there's some science around it, but I'm given to the mystical and the woo woo and the spiritual, and I want to know and I want to understand.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Yeah,
I want to process it more completely than I have and that I'm currently able. I want that to keep growing.
the medicines are so beautiful for that, but I can actually tell you that microdoses is almost enough. Keep in mind that I'm saying this as a person who I believe I'm initiated by the medicine at this time.
And it's also a homeopathic concept that,
Correct. Yes.
so
The master plants, and then, right. And so it's like, no,
right.
I can feel it. And I can feel it in people. Like, with my friend and I joke that you can feel the medicine in me, in my quantum field, activates
Mhm.
when I'm around the person who has been in ceremonial with that medicine. Like,
Mhm.
I literally just like, oof, boom.
And the microdose is just as powerful, if not more powerful. It's like it opens up our subtle sensory capacities. And our subtle sensory
Faculty
capacity,
to. Mhm.
yeah, they know how to disperse things. I don't know, more completely. I was trying to not use the word better.
But you have cognition in it too. So then you're available for
Sure.
cognition in it, right? Because a lot of people, like if you can't, people have amazing experiences, myself included, but we're not going to integrate everything. This is why the work with the medicine, 90% of the work is in the integration after.
Yes.
The
Preparation
same way I would
before,
imagine.
integration after. Yes. Is the whole of it. So people often, to bring this back to the OBE just for a minute, people often want to know how to go out of body. And the main thing that you can do for that is preparation. And in the preparation, you learn how to hold a single pointed focus so that you don't run or attack, right? That's what that's for. Oh, I was just going to say, though, one thing that was coming to my mind more than that, and it just like flew out the window. I just hate it when that happens. But in the preparatory, oh yeah, your ability, that's going to make your ability to make observations far more developed than if you don't prepare. If you don't learn to hold a single pointed focus, you can't learn to make clear, accurate observations and let those observations impact your conscious state. So it's in the observations that we make of ourselves that it inevitably let us go out. We're already out. What we begin to observe is that fact. We begin to observe that we sort of have this spectral presence. It's not just here. It has a spectrum to it, and you begin to find yourself being more in those spectrums. And that's what happened with me. It's how my inner being prepared me for the shocking way that it came to be in 2009. But if that hadn't established first, I would have also not been able to handle it when it happened. When it started happening, I kept trying to push it to the back. I just kept trying to push it to the back. It was that shocking. And when you're conscious of these things, your central nervous system is involved. And if your central nervous system goes into such a schism that you become mentally imbalanced, emotionally imbalanced, physically unbalanced, nothing beneficial or advancing has happened for you. No graduation. You actually brought yourself down rather than lifted yourself up. So it's very important to prepare. The focus and the ability to make observations are what are learned through that practice. And then following an experience such as an OBE or any expanded state of consciousness, really, which are bringing a lot of those to light, it's integration. The experience itself is just the dime. It's just the dime. You're on the dime. But it's everything that happened before and after or surrounding that. That's the really big thing.
Well, I will say that these things were moving in my consciousness, or sorry, in my everyday life, almost concurrent. That the way of the serving of the medicine is that way because, there's a recreation of the indigenous tribal traditions, but we don't live in those traditional tribal traditions. We come out of the teepee now, out of the medicine circle, and we almost immediately go back to work and go, our neighbors don't know what you are doing. None of that, right? These were communities where when you sat in medicine and when the shaman negotiated, right, for you, they knew who you are. You were coming out and you were being held in the space of integration, especially for, ayahuasca has, I believe, I don't know, like 2 to 3 months of neuroreceptors plasticity after a ceremony. Psilocybin has a couple weeks at least. DMT also has a couple months, I believe, depending on the different, I've sat with 5-MeO DMT. And so Iboga supposedly has 6 months. I have not, that is not my medicine. I have not touched it, right? So I don't know. It doesn't call me. I have no pull. I'm plenty good. I'm full, right?
Okay.
But there's a level of plasticity and malleability that it's available immediately after that, wide open experience, with the same way that a nervous system gets blown out from an event, right? How are you being held in that afterwards? And concurrently, that we're watching this happen in the yoga studio, in the yoga wellness studios, right? That do more yoga, do this kind of yoga, do Kundalini yoga. I cannot do Kundalini yoga. I will be ungrounded for 2 weeks if I did a Kundalini. Like I am literally out like 3 feet outside of myself if I do like I don't understand how people. I have to jump squat like a frog to make myself feel like I'm in my body if I do a Kundalini yoga class. And when I watch people do that, I'm like, I'm having a hard time hanging on to the face of the earth. Why would I want to be like, I leave it plenty, you know?
Having had a Kundalini awakening, Kundalini not being my path,
I
I
haven't.
understand now why in Kundalini yoga they do the posturing, the movements that they do. I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah, totally. Because that just is what that's the state I was in for those first years. Yes. Here and there, my central nervous system, my fight, in a schism, in shock, literally having to work through that shock while in that state.
Mhm.
So it was a lot to happen. If I hadn't been a practitioner, uh, a spiritual practitioner for as long as I had been, yeah, there is just no way I could have handled that. And I'm so glad that I was, because the awakening I was given, the leap, the possible leap that became my reality included so much more. So it's not a little leap.
Oh,
It's a really really big leap. And so, and not that I'll fully make it. I'm still integrating. Yeah,
I think
still
that
learning.
integration is incarnation, right? Like to me, incarnation takes a lifetime. It's like, it's okay. Like I'm still, whether it's an OB, a meditation circle, a conversation with you, or another medicine ceremony, I'm still anything in any one moment can trickle down and affect the past. Why? Because I have different clarity
Mhm.
that will affect how I look at things that let's say, if I've already decided, oh no, that's what it was, the interpretation, I absolutely have moments of like, oh, that was not that. It's like this
And it just keeps being like that. As a good friend of mine from my yoga days used to say, never let yourself land.
in process. But
Stay without ground. Yes. That's where everything happens. That's where things move and shake. That's where you see the infinite Crayola box, as I so like to say. you know.
I reserve the right to change my mind. It's like I'm today's where I'm at, but like, what if tonight and the experience in sleep state tonight completely flips it?
Yeah. It's not even a changing of the mind. It's what is in this moment. And what is in this moment is never identical. If it was, there'd be no purpose for linear existence,
Like, why
physical
have another one, right? Yeah.
physical existence, right? Yeah.
But
And the most brilliant thing that I think that what gives me the most joy isn't this or that. It's the differential between always. It will always be that state of differential between them, because it's where everything that you are is, and it's where everything that the other person that you're interacting with is, and all of that exists right in there. I'm often given this as a symbolic shape of two conical shapes interpenetrating. Yeah. And if you stay in that diamond space in the middle, that's what I mean by this. Being without ground, being in the state of differential between this and that. And then everything is there, just everything is there, and you feel so full.
like hold it lightly, right? It's ever since the complete deconstruction of my life, I don't want to start to grab onto things and identity. So
And you
like,
don't have to.
right?
You don't have to. You just be there in that differential. Yeah, because it's
It's
the differential that gives you anything new. You don't get anything new if you're not in that state of differential.
This is why I want to talk to people. It's like, well, maybe you think you have it right. Maybe I think I have it right. But what happens in the space of revelation, right? Like revelation happens is like, oh, there might be another way there may even be another way to assist in universal translators, or I like to play with that. And like, do you remember in Star Trek how they had the universal translator? Do you ever watch Star Trek? I
Oh,
was like, well, why were they always talking and everyone just understanding each other? Like, I don't understand. Like, my husband's always like, it's just a show. And I'm like, no, but I need to understand why that is. Like, then they think this through. And in the show, at one point they position that they're like, oh, there's this universal translator that is built into the ship, or that where everyone's just speaking the way that they are and we can all understand each other.
mhm.
Like right now, for me, my universal translator are yogic practices, right? The disciplines and gene keys,
Mhm.
like shamanic arts, something, right? What's my universal translator to help me bridge a potential chasm or a separation between myself and another person and their construct and how they're presenting it?
Yeah. The sound became mine. So at a certain point, it was the languages, sure. Yana was huge. Atma Vichara was huge. Vedanta was huge. But now it's sound. I just sort of open myself and let the sound vibrate through me. And I find myself being able to follow exactly what you're saying. Now, I might leave my body when I do this, go somewhere and like lose contact. But I try not to. I become better at that as I invoke it. Uh, but that sound moving through you, that's
Yeah.
actually how I learned how to go out of body too. I just started using light itself and sound itself. I would just let my consciousness merge with that plane that was flying overhead rather than let that get in my way. I would relax myself to the point where I actually became the sound and I was experiencing myself as vibration, and boom, you're just out.
Isn't that the saying that that's what meditation is, right? And then
Exactly.
and then by it, samadhi is the absorption, right? It's like when you focus on meditate on the nature of it, it would reveal its nature by becoming, and then that becomes the absorption, right? So therefore, samadhi,
Hmm.
right? That is enlightenment. It's like one with everything without perhaps losing the nature of yourself, right? Because the one thing that I've observed in all OBs or in medicine circles too is that I'm never not there. I kept having this idea that somehow enlightenment, or like the full exposition of the everything, would mean that it would wipe out this extreme intense chattering of me, and it does. It's calm. It's a hum,
Hmm.
like we're speaking about. It's like right, like it's like that, but I'm always there, and it's like I've been trying to lose myself in it.
That is the culmination. First, there is a mountain, then
But
there is no mountain, then there is. First you are, then you aren't, then you are. Yes, and moving through that, through actual life experience, through actual spiritual disciplines, through the culmination, such as out-of-body experiences and such. That comes more and more into play. Yeah, and reaching that culmination point. Yeah, so it is at a certain point in practice, just like in the night when we go into the dream state, we disappear. Yeah, we're no longer aware of ourself, right? Okay, so that's the beginning playground,
mm-hmm,
not the culmination.
mm-hmm.
It's when we start our presence at every spectral level is present. That's the culmination. Can you imagine living life in that state? I get my whole body starts to shake. I mean, not shake, vibrate.
Yes, trembling. I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
I would love that. But then I feel like I chose this. I know that I chose my life.
Well, you experience it in body. So your body is just the individuated consciousness. Their consciousness cells just like you. They're just at the elemental level consciousness. And they're fully conscious in your state as well. When that happens, yeah, you no longer experience yourself as 3D physically as you did before. But you're still here and you're still in body, and the experience of that is bliss. Uh, and to move in that and never move out of it, would just be phenomenal. We achieve these states momentarily.
But we do move, like what happens when when we come back in, right? Because the
The
thing,
masters do this. People who have actually achieved it, when you're in their presence, you feel it. It's their presence is so much more tangible. They've opened their energetic structure so much more freely and unconditionally to everybody. And we feel that through ourselves. We're like, wow, what is that? I want some of that. And we want to be around them
I
without
want some of that.
realizing we can go through the process of becoming that ourselves.
So the medicine that I've sat with that makes me feel like that, and every time when I come back in, it takes me a minute to come back in to where I've rolled on the ground, I've put a weighted blanket on me because I feel as if my edges aren't there.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, but I'm like not,
Wonderful way to put it. Yes.
right? And so my husband's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm laying on the ground." It's like, "Why?" Because I need to feel something of where I end in here. Like, where am I at?
Yeah. You get more and
Whenever,
more used to it. You get more
yeah.
and more used to it. Yeah.
When I come back in, the only question I have is how? Like, how did I get like this? How does it get like this? How, wh- how many thought forms consecutively did it take to get so ingrained into this density of like human being, planet Earth, year 2026, this is my name, I have a husband, I like blue glasses. It was like all these little like boom, and it's like, and you may call me Delia, right? It's just happened. Like, how did it get like this? It's so backwards because inside that acidic frequency of like,
Mhm.
right? Like one with the all, it's like, oh, I don't have any of these constructs. Like there's no distinctions. That's what I
Yeah.
call it. It's like
But
preference distinctions. And like there's just so many of them. I'm exhausted some days,
this
right?
is what I mean also by being in the differential, because you know the one state and the other. And so you deliberately call to yourself the differential between the two, and all your data is there. So if you're asking questions like that, you find yourself hearing the answers, seeing the thoughts that were getting in the way, whatever they happen to be.
Like the weight of it, like the three-dimensional is heavy. I
Oh, so
told my husband that I don't understand some of these people that are like, oh, it's so good to be alive because the one feeling or experience that I have the most is that it's extremely heavy here.
yes. And we mentioned another thing. We'll tell the audience, we're going to have a series of these talks because there's so much to go into. And I would like to go into it all with you. The opportunity to, I find to be a blessing. I just want to say that.
I have so many questions for you.
Yeah, I
Please.
have so many questions for you too. The stories could probably go on for a few years here. Well, just in the just trying to give people a taste of the experience and the pathway into them and the pathway into their continuance is, I find, a very important thing right now. I forgot what I was just saying.
I would like to please bring you back in because it was important for me to hear this. The
Mm.
being in the differentiate, like in the distinctions, the differentials between
Differential between one state and another state.
like
Mhm.
this one feels heavy. Like I'm actually aware of it. Some moments throughout the day I can move through it and I'm not in my body. I'm not in the state of I have a body.
I never came into the body. I did not feel that until I did. I was always in my mental field. My body
But
was always clearly in the center of it,
I
not
don't feel
here.
like I came into, I have the feeling of weightedness and
Mm,
heaviness,
I do
but
too.
I don't, so in 2019, I undertook the Rolfing 10 series, the structural integration is what it's called.
Mhm.
And at about series session 6, it felt as if my legs were walking ahead of me. I was like, my legs are doing something. Like, I'm not doing this. What is happening? Who's doing this? Like, what is going on here? And I broke my toes on my right foot.
It sounds like you were feeling your energy legs and your physical legs, and your energy
Yes.
legs were doing something different than your physical legs.
And I'm this many years old when I didn't realize that I never felt my energy legs. Like, oh, I've had legs and I've been moving, but I've never felt this. And then I kept
Yeah.
saying, I feel like I have jetpacks. And my friends are like, what do you mean? I was like, there's this, it's like there is a jetpack of energy in between my two shoulder blades,
Mm.
and they have a weird energy and something is happening. And then I experience these wing situations. Like, I kind of wanted to ask some, if has anyone had that experience of like feeling like they have wings? What is that?
Well, me, and more feeling like I have wings, I can feel the weight of them. And
Mhm.
it's given me a chronic condition of chronic myalgia right there.
You
Yeah.
think more about it because so my friend, I felt horrible when I had the experience of when my wings came out because they're very big. They're planet size big. Like, they are big.
Yeah.
And they came out. The first time they came out was
Oh,
actually in an ayahuasca ceremony where I felt that I call it the swirly,
mhm.
going to someone in the group, and I felt that the facilitator either didn't detect it or couldn't take care of that. And when it noticed that I was looking at it, it came for me. And like in that second of coming at me, I started laughing and these wings just boom, like this. And I was like, what? But here's the reason why that scared me. And I've seen them since, and I use them in medicine, and I use them in they're black. They're
Really?
very dark.
Hmm.
They're big. They're like the night. Like, they literally cover, like I go cloaked.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, but my immediate reaction in that is like, oh, who has black wings?
You do. I can see them. Keep explaining them.
I felt that there was something wrong with me. So,
Oh no.
well, because when you read a lot and you read a lot of stories and you watch a lot of YouTube late at
They're
night,
other people's fears.
I'm deconstructing a lot of that stuff. I said I have so much gratitude to my sisters for undertaking sitting in what we call conscious circles, where we don't sit with a facilitator, we actually facilitate each other. We're all experienced journeyers, and we will facilitate each other in order to be in the space of work these things out, that there's not a lot of that availability and opportunity in the circles with facilitators, right? So like, how do I work this out? To come to find out that I have another friend who also has really dark long wings, and she's like, oh honey, I call it my dirty wings, and I was like, okay, permission to just own that I have these massive wings, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'd like to know why the myalgia, because I also do yeah, the pains in the body and how I'm working with it and how the OBEs are helping me heal and putting in the process of healing and what's going on and how that is rewiring my body and how it heightens the synesthesia to where I've come to understand that, oh, synesthesia is actually it's a gift, right? I pick up psychic information around me, and by the way, it's not a lot of fun picking up psychic information.
Heavy, isn't it?
But
People think the OBE is fun. Well, it's fun. It's amazing. And it's also heavy. You're going to be given a lot of information that's going to be very heavy, and you have to learn how to carry that. With the wings, yeah, everything's always resistance. So, uh, being a mental projector, I think that helps make the eighth chakra coming online, in my experience, make a lot of sense. And that also is very heavy. So I feel the weight of that. And I feel with that came the wings, the awareness of the wings.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
that
with that
tracks.
came the awareness of having a large job, of that having to occur at a pace that wasn't beyond my handling skills. And so, we feel like we need to put a level of resistance there. That level of resistance is what causes the weight, not the chakra, not the wings, but the resistance to everything coming in so fast, it may just implode us, right?
Yeah, it does feel like it's gonna shred.
Every ounce of us, yeah. So yeah, it's lightened up, but there's phases where when it's there a lot, like when I feel that like another new leg is coming in, I might apply some level of resistance and like show me a bit of what this is first, and don't bring it in so fast and all at once that I can't handle it. So yeah, I still feel like I need to protect myself. That doesn't go away. I'm still a person. I'm still a 3D person. I'm handling and working with and processing so much at present. I have to wonder whether I'm able to process more. And I try to wonder and not doubt. However, the doubt's going to be there as well.
Mm.
So yeah, that applies a level of
Nonstop
resistance.
for me. Nonstop. Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? And to be really honest with you, if I didn't have the group of sisters, and I very specifically would address them as sisters because that is what they are, they're my soul allies
Mhm.
here. Like my life is the most magical because of this.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's
We're the alter egos. It's like, oh yeah, we're, like alter egos, house moms, but whatever, right? Like, I know I really am a glorified housewife because what I do behind the gate, this is what I would actually like to do. And I'm being given, so all that deconstruction that happened in Las Vegas so many years before,
Mhm.
um, I'd love to be able to just say this. When I sat down and redid my practices, right, I went back into the practice in Las Vegas prior to, what the next big move was.
Mhm.
The information in the OBE and the meditation was that my partner is coming, that it's time to accept marriage as right. And it's like, okay, I'm ready, but no crap, no this, only. And that I had asked, do I know him already? And they said yes. And I was shown the side of the face with like a beard, which doesn't mean anything because I tend to like guys with facial hair, So I was like, well, that's no, but that literally could be anyone, right? Like if I know him. And then I had an OBE with again instructions of the three three yeses. Three questions will be posed, and you are to say yes to all of them. The questions were: I came to visit my parents with my daughter in Portland, and at the time, we posted on Facebook, "I'm Portland visiting parents." My ex-boyfriend called me and said, "Hey, you're in town." My ex-boyfriend from like 16 years before.
Mhm.
"You're in town. Can we go have dinner?" Yes. Then he called later and said, "I'd like to come visit you. Can I come visit you?" It was like 2 weeks later, within a month. Yes. And when he came to visit me, he proposed
Wow.
because he had proposed before. Like he calls me the one that still did not get away, that, we were supposed to, and then we didn't. And so like, he's like, "I've always known that you are it, but you are not playing." You didn't want to play, so now they're here. And I kept trying to talk him out of it when in fact it was the yes.
So interesting. You have a lot coming full circle in your life through your awakening process. Your teacher coming to show up as your
Yep,
ayahuasca
yep.
facilitator,
And it's
an
like then
ex-boyfriend coming forward to become your husband now.
yes,
And yeah,
like I pick up and complete, and then but
I
then
can almost see,
it's a whole life with this person. And I like to say that I was like, I like to take God by the throat a little bit and just like really, dude, like 16 years had to go around the world and do this when but I wasn't having it 16 years before. And thank God, because it is perfect now,
You were
right?
ready when you were ready, and thank goodness he held that door open on his end. How extraordinary that just in itself.
But
Uh,
it was in the process, in the OBE. Like, here's your questions. I came home from him proposing and I went, my head is spinning. I don't know what just happened, but like, it's a yes, right?
awesome. Three yeses. We're going to punctuate this particular talk here and conclude because we never quite arrived at that ayahuasca ceremony that happened itself 10 years after the first. Go ahead and tell us a bit about what happened in that for you before we conclude for today.
So in that ceremony, I saw Shiva dancing and right back into the learning, the quantum structure, the field, the quantum, come back, welcome back. And by the way, every one of the ceremonies for me, it built on each other. I'm trying to think of what if it was okay. So that in that ceremony went even deeper into the teachings, the learnings. I was doing the 300-hour at that time, and the best thing from that ceremony wasn't incredibly powerful as far as that is that I ended up meeting what I now call my soul allies group. The facilitator at that time, these are people that would sit with her. And so I got introduced. I was asked from that ayahuasca experience, I was asked to come in and have a round table and teach the girls the gene keys. And then that started this process of partnerships and soul align of, actually working deeply with the medicine. And I would say that that my abilities of, seer, if you will, or going into that, um, met the beginning of like what is the most exciting chapter, I would say, of my life from that.
Fantastic. So the ceremonies are actually bringing to you your life. They're bringing to you the elements of what you want and of uh,
Mhm.
um, a level of progression. You're clearly wanting a level of progression in this life, and it's clearly visible from everything that you've told us so far. So that's interesting, and it's bringing to your conscious state an awareness of more of your abilities, and you
It's soul
now are
integration, really. I
you
would
now
say
are
that this is
utilizing
soul.
them.
Yes, it's a like I'm integrating more of my own soul expression that is available. I have awareness of it being available. I have cognition of it being available. And I'm integrating it via the relationships through the medicine, right? But
Mhm.
it is also now I get to have really fun relationships with women that are, their mothers and they, hold it. It's amazing. It really is.
Yes, yeah. And I thank you for making your way into my life as well. I feel very privileged to have
It's
arrived here in
through,
the circle with
thank you
you.
so very much because it's through that. That's how I met BIBA, right? Like my friend that I did the structural integration with, right? The rofer had a session with BIBA, spoke so highly of her. I went and looked at Biba's channel. I was like, oh my God, yes, please. I had a session with Biba and I had the most interesting story in it that where I asked Biba to ask about what my galactic provenance is. Like, where did I come from? Which star system?
Mhm.
What my higher self in QHHT answered is like, oh, no, no, none of that. She's been everywhere. She was a unit of time. And so when I saw you speak on Biba's podcast, you were talking about time, space, space, time. And I was like, maybe you can like help me now.
Time is the high fascination. It's always going to be the high fascination. But just to let people know really quick, Biba Logan is the most amazing QHHT practitioner on the planet, if you ask me. And I say this for a very particular reason. Not only do I have a high connection with Ireland, I seem to attract a lot of Irish people. It's a magical place, right? And me having lived my life in a magical way. I feel a strong connection to that. But Biba also, in my sessions with her, I mean, without me even realizing it happened, awakened my emotional body. Now, if I feel any emotion whatsoever, you can see my eyes, I resist emotion coming through me so much uh, that my eyes will tear, my face will become red. It's just, I don't know. I don't feel right in my emotional body. But she opened it up with such ease and grace. I didn't even realize it happened until I was in there and relaying things. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in my emotional body. And I was in my emotional body in the most pleasant way. I mean, so she was able to help facilitate that for somebody who is, I mean, so regressive when it comes to that particular spectrum of myself, that, I was just like, wow, this woman's got skills. It's not just that. I mean, she of course can do infinitely more, but the fact that she did that, and I have had other regressions where, nobody can get me out of my mental body, but she did, I mean, and it's a level of safety, I guess, that you feel when you're with
That's
people.
right, because
Now I am going to start crying because
she is the signature. She holds that. Like, this is what building a container is like. No, you are the beam 360 of the construct of safety, because it's the same way that we learn as children, right?
Mhm.
Children learn to pattern after the parents, the regulated parents' nervous system. That is an energetic field,
Yeah.
right? And so if you are holding that field, that's what you're imparting. This is what you're bringing into the landscape of humanity. And I think that this might be something perhaps you'd like to hear. But the observation that we are having in ceremonies, both in the ones that are where we facilitate each other and we sit with other facilitators in their tradition, is that humanity, the
Hmm.
order of the day, the yogic practices came from a context where
Jealous.
we're developing the mental body. They're coming out of the animalistic impulse of that, right? And some masters, the masters, integrated all the bodies, right? Emotional body, buddhi body, right?
It's
But,
something we have to do, whether we have the top-down awakening or the base to crown one. I had
but the collective, right? The humanity as a collective right now is integrating their emotional body. This is what I'm observing. That's like, oh, if you look at the through line, this is what's happening, right? Which is why humanity has the wound of inflammation currently. Like, we are just so inflamed right now.
yeah.